Welcome back to the Business Leaders Cyber Briefing. We're on episode 9 now. I'm Trish.
And I'm Tom.
And today we're going deep on something that should have every UK financial firm's attention, especially those dealing with PCI DSS compliance, the looming threat of quantum computing to cybersecurity. Yeah, it may seem a bit out there, like science fiction stuff, but this is a very real risk right now.
Absolutely, Trish. And even if you're a business leader who doesn't live and breathe tech, stick with us.
Yeah.
We're breaking this down in plain English, no jargon, so you grasp the core issue and what to do about it. Our mission is clear: to arm you with a business-focused understanding of this quantum threat and what your firm needs to do to be ready for a post-quantum world.
Couldn't have said it better myself. This isn't just an IT headache. This is a full-blown business risk.
As always, this show is brought to you by Coolwater Cyber.
The quantum threat to our current cybersecurity infrastructure is very real, and we need to be prepared.
So we've been digging deep into expert reports, industry guidance from organizations like the NCSC and NIST, and keeping an eye on the latest news on quantum computing advancements.
And we are here to break it all down for you.
So let's start with the basics. What exactly is quantum computing?
You know, when you hear the words quantum computing, it's easy to picture these massive supercomputers in some high-tech lab, right?
Yeah, it definitely sounds like something straight out of Star Trek.
Right. But to understand the impact on cybersecurity, we don't need to get lost in the physics.
Exactly. So think about the computers we use every day. They store information as bits, which can be either a 0 or 1.
It's a simple system that has powered the digital age.
But quantum computers, they use something called qubits.
And this is where things get interesting.
A qubit can be a 0, a 1, or both at the same time.
Imagine that a single bit holding two possibilities simultaneously. This is called superposition, and it's one of the keys to the power of quantum computing.
It's like flipping a coin and having it land on both heads and tails at the same time.
That's a great analogy. It completely changes how we think about computing because it allows quantum computers to perform calculations in parallel, exploring multiple possibilities at once.
And then there's this other wild concept called entanglement.
Yes, entanglement. This is where two qubits are linked together in such a way that they become interconnected.
So if you measure the state of one qubit, you instantly know the state of the other no matter how far apart they are.
It's like having two coins that are magically linked. When one lands on heads, the other one instantly flips to tails, and vice versa.
Spooky action at a distance, as Einstein called it.
Exactly. And when you combine entanglement with superposition, you get this exponential increase in processing power that makes quantum computers so different and potentially so disruptive.
Okay, so I think we have a grasp on the basic building blocks. But what does this actually mean for cybersecurity?
Well, much of our digital security today relies on something called cryptography, which uses math problems to secure our data.
Right, like encrypting our online banking transactions or protecting our websites with SSL certificates.
Exactly. And a lot of these encryption methods, particularly public key cryptography, which includes things like RSA and ECC, are based on math problems that are incredibly difficult for classical computers to solve.
So they're secure because it would take a normal computer millions of years to crack the code.
Precisely. It's like trying to find a single grain of sand on a beach.
But quantum computers, with their ability to perform calculations in parallel, could theoretically solve these problems much, much faster.
And that's where the threat lies.
There's an algorithm called Shor's algorithm that can run on a quantum computer, and it can break many of our commonly used encryption methods.
It's like having a metal detector that instantly finds that needle in the haystack.
So what you're saying is that one day, our current encryption methods could be completely useless against a quantum attack.
It's not a question of if, but when.
And this brings us to a pretty scary concept that I think every business leader needs to understand. Harvest, now decrypt later.
Yes.
Yeah.
The harvest now, decrypt later threat.
It's the idea that sophisticated cyber criminals, maybe even nation states, are collecting tons of encrypted data right now.
They can't decrypt it today, but they're patiently waiting for the day when quantum computers become powerful enough.
And at that point, all that stolen data, your customers' financial records, their personal information, everything could be unlocked.
It's a massive risk, especially for financial institutions dealing with PCI cardholder data.
Right, because PCI compliance requires companies to protect this data for a long time.
Exactly. So even if you think you're safe today, the data you're encrypting right now could be at risk in the future.
And the Bank of International Settlements, the BIS, has actually issued warnings about this.
They've said that quantum computing could pose a serious threat to the entire global financial system, potentially compromising all financial transactions and records.
It's a pretty stark warning.
It is. Now, to be fair, not all encryption is equally vulnerable to quantum computers.
Right, I was just going to ask about that. What about symmetric encryption like AES?
That's a good question. Symmetric encryption uses the same key to encrypt and decrypt data, and it's generally considered to be more resistant to quantum attacks.
So AES is still safe.
Well, there's another quantum algorithm called Grover's algorithm that can speed up brute force attacks on symmetric keys.
So it could weaken AES.
It could potentially reduce the strength of AES 128, but AES 256 with its longer key length is still considered relatively safe for now.
Okay, so the immediate threat is to public key cryptography like RSA and ECC.
That's right. Those are the algorithms that are most vulnerable, and they're the ones that underpin so much of our online infrastructure.
So the clock is ticking. But when exactly will this quantum threat become a reality?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? No one knows for sure, but expert estimates generally place the arrival of a cryptographically relevant quantum computer sometime in the early to mid-2030s.
It's not that far off.
No, it's not. And the UK's National Cybersecurity Centre, the NCSC, has set a target of 2035 for organizations to transition to quantum-resistant cryptography.
We are seeing some amazing progress in the field of quantum computing.
Oh, absolutely. Companies like IBM are rapidly increasing the number of qubits in their processors, and there have been significant breakthroughs in error correction, which is essential for building stable and reliable quantum computers.
And there's been a ton of investment pouring into quantum research and development, both from the private sector and governments all around the world.
It's a rapidly evolving landscape.
But to be clear, no quantum computer has yet broken any real-world encryption algorithms, right?
Not yet. But that doesn't mean we should be complacent. The technological landscape can shift quickly, and unexpected breakthroughs can happen.
So it's better to be prepared than to be caught off guard.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about solutions. What can organizations do to protect themselves against this quantum threat?
Well, there are a couple of different approaches. One is quantum cryptography, often referred to as quantum key distribution, or QKD.
I've heard of that. It uses the principles of quantum mechanics to create these incredibly secure keys.
Exactly. The idea is that if someone tries to eavesdrop on the key exchange, it actually disturbs the quantum states, alerting the legitimate users.
So it's like having a built-in alarm system.
In theory, it's incredibly secure. But the challenge with QKD is that it requires specialized hardware and infrastructure.
So it's not something that most organizations can easily implement.
Right. It's more practical for specific point-to-point communication links, not for securing the entire internet.
Okay, so what's the more practical solution for most businesses?
That would be post-quantum cryptography, or PQC.
And that is?
PQC refers to new algorithms that are designed to be resistant to attacks from both classical computers and quantum computers.
Ah, okay, so it's future-proof encryption.
You got it. And the great thing about PQC is that it can run on our existing classical computer systems.
So we don't need to rip and replace all our infrastructure.
Not at all. It's more about updating our software and security systems with these new quantum-resistant algorithms.
And thankfully, there's a global effort underway to standardize these PQC algorithms, right?
Yes. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, has been leading this charge.
I've heard about that. They've been running a competition to find the best PQC algorithms.
Exactly. And in 2022, they announced the first set of algorithms selected for standardization.
So we're starting to see some real progress in this area.
We are. One of the algorithms they selected is Crystal's Kyber for encryption and key exchange. It's based on something called lattice-based cryptography, which is thought to be very resistant to quantum attacks.
And I read that Zoom has already started implementing Kyber to secure their meeting encryption.
That's right. So we're seeing early adoption of these algorithms. NIST also selected Crystal's Dilithium and Falcon for digital signatures, which are also lattice-based.
And what about Synthesis plus Core? I've heard that one mentioned as well.
That's a hash-based signature scheme which relies on the security of cryptographic hash functions. It's also a strong contender, but it produces larger signatures.
So there are multiple options to choose from.
There are. And more recently, NIST added HQC to the mix for key encapsulation.
What's interesting is that we're not just talking about academic research here. We're starting to see real-world implementations of these PQC algorithms.
Oh, absolutely. HP is shipping PCs and printers with firmware that includes post-quantum cryptography. And in the financial world, the Bank of International Settlements has been piloting hybrid quantum-resistant encryption for cross-border payments.
It's encouraging to see this momentum building.
It is. And the UK's NCSC has also come out in support of these algorithms, aligning their guidance with NIST.
So there's a clear path forward for organizations that want to prepare for the quantum threat.
There is. But what are the implications of all this for cybersecurity and data privacy?
Especially for our audience of business leaders, particularly those in financial institutions that need to comply with PCI DSS.
The implications are significant. If quantum computers were to break our current encryption standards, it would undermine the very foundations of our digital world.
It would be a cybersecurity nightmare.
Attackers could decrypt communications, forge digital signatures, bypass authentication systems, you name it.
And for financial institutions, the risk of exposed cardholder data is enormous.
Absolutely. PCI DSS requires strong encryption for both stored and transmitted cardholder data, and that data often needs to be retained for long periods.
So the harvest now decrypt later threat is a major concern.
It is. Imagine all that sensitive information, credit card numbers, personal details, potentially being compromised years down the line.
It would be a massive data breach with huge financial and reputational consequences.
And it wouldn't just be limited to payment card information. Any sensitive data protected by current encryption methods could be at risk.
So this is about more than just PCI compliance. It's about protecting all sensitive data.
Exactly. And we can expect increased regulatory scrutiny and pressure from financial authorities, data protection agencies, and the PCI Security Standards Council.
It's a wake-up call for organizations to start taking this seriously.
It is. And PCI DSS version 4.0 has already strengthened the requirements around encryption.
So it's clear that the PCI SSE is paying attention to this threat.
They are. And future audits will likely assess an organization's proactive steps towards quantum readiness.
So organizations need to be prepared to demonstrate that they're taking action to mitigate the quantum risk.
Absolutely.
So what's the roadmap for PCI DSS firms? What concrete steps should they be taking right now?
The first step is to conduct a thorough inventory of all the places where cardholder data is stored, processed, or transmitted.
So understand your current cryptographic landscape.
Exactly.
Right.
And document the specific algorithms and key lengths being used.
And then?
Then focus on building crypto agility into your systems. Meaning using crypto libraries that support PQC algorithms or having a plan to upgrade to them.
And working with your vendors to ensure that their solutions are quantum safe.
Absolutely. You need to make sure that your payment processing systems, security tools, and other critical technologies are ready for the quantum era.
And for data in transit.
Stay informed about the development of TLS 1.3 with PQC cipher suites, and start working with vendors that offer hybrid PQC TLS endpoints.
So protecting data as it moves across networks.
Right. And for data that's already been encrypted and stored long-term, you might want to consider re-encrypting it with AES 256 as an immediate measure.
So strengthening the encryption on existing data.
Exactly. And start planning for future re-encryption using PQC-wrapped keys or even adding a layer of quantum-resistant symmetric encryption.
There's a lot to think about.
There is. And don't forget to engage with the PCI, SSC, and participate in industry initiatives. Stay informed about best practices and contribute to the development of standards.
And update your risk management and compliance roadmaps to specifically address the quantum threat.
Right. You need to have a plan in place to ensure that your organization remains PCI compliant in the face of this emerging threat.
So for business leaders in the financial sector, the message is clear. Start preparing for the quantum era now.
It's not just a technical issue, it's a strategic imperative.
And the good news is that there are resources and tools available to help you on this journey.
The NCSC's timeline and the NIST standardized PQC algorithms are great starting points.
And you need to be thinking about the long-term implications of the harvest now decrypt later threat.
The quantum future is coming, and those who prepare today will be the ones who thrive tomorrow.
It really makes you wonder, what steps will you take to secure your organization's future in this new quantum landscape?
And for those of you in the financial industry facing the challenges of PCI compliance in this quantum era, remember Coolwater Cyber is here to help.
That's right. Coolwater Cyber's PCI Compliance as a Service can help you navigate all aspects of PCI, including your migration to post-quantum cryptography.
So you can rest assured that your sensitive data is protected both now and in the future.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into quantum computing and cybersecurity.
And until next time, stay safe and stay vigilant.